Jai Vishnupada Punta Prabhaja Kachaya Saraswati Shishima Chidani Goswami Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Samaraj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Iskan BBT Founder Charya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Praise to go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kanda Radha Kanimani Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Navapuri Dham Ki Jai Navaswami Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bol Samveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai All glory some of the devotees, all glory some of the devotees, all glory some of the devotees. All glories, Shri Shri Guru Rang, all glories, divine grace to the Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 10, text 15. Swayam Eva Atmana Atmanam Vetha Tvam Purushottama Bhuta Bhavanam Bhutesha Deva Deva Jagatpate Swayam Evatmanatmanam Swayam Evatmanatmanam Vettatvam Purushottama Vettatvam Purushottama Bhuta Bhavana Bhutesha Bhuta Bhavana Bhutesha Deva Deva Jagatpate. Translation. Indeed, you alone know yourself by your own internal potency, O Supreme Person, Origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe. Purport. The Supreme Lord Krishna can be known by persons who are in a relationship with Him through the discharge of devotional service, like Arjuna and his followers. Persons of demonic or atheistic mentality cannot know Krishna. Mental speculation that leads one away from the Supreme Lord is a serious sin, and one who does not know Krishna should not try to comment on Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the statement of Krishna, and since it is the science of Krishna, it should be understood from Krishna as Arjuna understood it. It should not be received from atheistic persons. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vedanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam prameti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabjate. The supreme truth is realized in three aspects: as impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and at last as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So at the last stage of understanding the absolute truth, one comes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A common man, or even a liberated man, who has realized impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma, may not understand God's personality. Such men, therefore, may endeavor to understand the Supreme Person from the verses of Bhagavad Gita, which are spoken by this person, Krishna. Sometimes the impersonalists accept Krishna as Bhagavan, or they accept his authority. Yet many liberated persons cannot understand Krishna as Purushottama, the Supreme Person. Therefore Arjuna addresses him as Purushottama. Yet one still may not understand that Krishna is the Father of all living entities. Still one may not know him as the Supreme Controller. Therefore he is addressed here as Bhutesha, the Supreme Controller of everyone. And even if one knows Krishna as the Supreme Controller of all living entities, still one may not know that he is the origin of all the demigods, Therefore he is addressed herein as Deva Deva, the worshipful God of all demigods. And even if one knows him as the worshipful God of all demigods, one may not know that he is the supreme proprietor of everything. Therefore he is addressed as Jagatpati. Thus the truth about Krishna is established in this verse by the realization of Arjuna, and we should follow in the footsteps of Arjuna to understand Krishna as he is. Swayam evatmanatmanam vetatvam purushottama bhuta bhavana bhutesha deva deva jagatpate. Indeed, you alone know yourself by your own internal potency, O Supreme Person, origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe. So here, we are in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. It is in this 10th chapter that Krishna is recognized by Arjuna in his position, his actual position, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, previous to this, Arjuna was asking many questions, and Krishna was accepting the role as his spiritual master and answering the questions one after another. Actually, Arjuna was accepting the position just like all of us. We also have many questions to ask, many things we don't know, many problems in our lives. So Arjuna represented us in his questions. Arjuna is an eternally liberated soul. This means he has no illusion. But we, who are not eternally liberated, we sometimes fall into illusion. So therefore, Arjuna accepted a role just like us and asked Krishna many questions which were very important for us to know. So Arjuna began speaking about the body. What is the body? What is the soul? What are we, in other words? What is our original nature? What are we meant to be? What is our actual position? So Arjuna was asking like this. And Krishna was explaining that we are not this body. We are pure spirit souls who are part and parcel of Krishna. We are part of Krishna. We are part of the Supreme. This is our original nature. We are by nature spiritual. Krishna is also spiritual. Actually, we are by nature spiritual because we are emanating from Krishna. Krishna is the origin of all. That is stated here. Bhuta bhavana. Bhuta refers both to the living entities and to the elements. So Krishna is Bhuta bhavana, the source of everything, more or less. Now, it is a fact that we all come from Krishna, and our main business is to realize our relationship with Krishna. At the present moment, we are in Maya, illusion, for we have forgotten what is our original relationship with Krishna. So our main business in the human form of life is to remember what we forgot. To once again re-establish ourselves in our original Krishna conscious position. And this Krishna consciousness movement is just meant to do that. It is just meant to bring us, the conditioned souls, back together again with Krishna, the origin of all. So after some discussion was going on in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna became convinced that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of God. And he was describing some of the potencies of Krishna in this chapter. Prabhupada describes here in the purport about the nature of realization of the Absolute Truth. And he quotes a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Vedanti tat tattva vedas tattvam yajganam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdite. This verse explains very succinctly the nature of realization of the Absolute Truth. The Absolute Truth may be realized in 3 stages. The first stage is Bhagavan. That is the personal aspect of the Supreme Lord. The Lord personally. That personality who is the source of everything. That original transcendental existence. Krishna. The Supreme One. Yeah. The first thing to understand, or the last thing, it depends on how you see it. The first thing means it is the primary existence. Krishna is the original existence. Krishna is the Supreme, so he is the first thing. But in realizing the Supreme, one may realize him last because one is not so advanced in spiritual life. In any case, we'll go through the 3 features of the Absolute Truth. The first stage, if we are just coming to realize Krishna, okay? Yes, the first stage is Brahman. That is the impersonal effulgence of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Just like the sun here is very bright. So the sun planet is one thing, and the rays of the sun are another. Although the sun's rays and the sun planet are essentially the same, both are heat and light. But there is a big difference. One is the source of heat and light. The other is the emanation from that source. In other words, one is the cause, the other is the effect. This means there is a big difference between the sun and the sunshine, although essentially there's no difference. We say the sun is on our heads, therefore we have to shield our eyes and put something there because it's too hot. So we'd say the sun is too hot, the sun is on our head. But actually, if the sun were actually on our heads, finished instantly. So hot would it be. So we accept here the simultaneous oneness and difference between the sun and the sunshine. So we, the living entities, are like Krishna in the same way as the sunshine is like the sun. We are qualitatively equal with Krishna. We are emanating from Krishna. So we are like Krishna. But the difference is that he's very, very great. He is the source. And we are small. We are the emanation. Everything is an emanation from Krishna. Aham sarvasa prabhavo, matta sarvam pavartate. Everything comes from me. Everything emanates from me. So, when we understand all these things in truth, meaning this material world, also all the living entities, in truth, then we understand that all are actually emanations from Krishna. And all things together, all things everywhere taken together, are called Brahman. Everything that is in existence is called Brahman. So sometimes a certain class of philosophers will find it easier to understand the Supreme by understanding all of his energies. And therefore, they understand Brahman first. They don't understand the Supreme Personality of Krishna, but they understand his impersonal feature. So they are generally known as impersonalists. They understand the effulgence of Krishna. Just like the sun has a very great effulgence. So Krishna has effulgence which is more than billions of suns taken together. That effulgence is called his Brahma Jyoti. And the impersonalistic philosophers sometimes speak about that as the white light. But that means the great effulgence which comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the first way to understand the Supreme. When one is more advanced, he comes to the platform of understanding Paramatma. Brahmaniti Paramatmiti, the second stage. Paramatma means the super soul who is situated in the hearts of all living entities. Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is within us. He is within everyone's heart. And from him come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. He is directing us, life after life, when we, the living entities, leave this body at the time of death. We transfer ourselves to another body according to our karma. If we have acted, so to speak, in a nice way, in a good fashion, according to the natural law of the universe, not just according to our mental speculation, then we may elevate ourselves next lifetime to some position which is even higher than human being, to the heavenly planets, perhaps. If we have acted in a way which is not so nice, according to the natural law, which is bad, then we can degrade ourselves to the lower planets, which are not so nice. And if we have acted somehow in the middle portion, we may remain in the human form, taking a new birth somewhere in this world. So we find, if you die in the mode of goodness, you can elevate yourself. If you die in the mode of passion, you remain in the human species. If one dies in the mode of ignorance, he degrades down to the lower species. So all of this is going on according to our karma and according to the direction of the supersoul within the heart. That supersoul within the heart, he keeps track of our karma. He makes sure that everything that happens to us, everything that goes on, all the changes of body which take place according to our karma, so that we don't get too much suffering or too much enjoyment. Everything is strictly regulated, and it is the supersoul's job to make sure that goes on. He also regulates my particular form of life in the next lifetime. So this is the next realization, where we realize Krishna within the heart. That is very nice, to realize the Supreme within the heart, because then one feels very comfortable in all circumstances, in all times, in all places, in all circumstances. He's always feeling that Krishna is right there with him. He does not feel separated from Krishna at any time. Now, in the material world, we generally don't have very much experience about Krishna. Therefore, we feel separate from him. But factually, the living entity is never separated from the Supreme. He's always together with the Supreme. But some people know that, very few. And some people don't, most. So realization of the Paramatma feature means one knows Krishna's there within his heart. And he knows the Supreme Lord is always available for us if we simply depend on Him, turn towards Him, look for Him, pray to Him, then we can have great experience of Him. And when one is most advanced, in other words, when he is actually developed fully his Krishna consciousness, then he comes to the realization Bhagawan. The stage of Bhagawan means, Bhagawan realization, means that one is able to realize the personal form of the Supreme Absolute Truth. He has direct realization of Krishna. He can, even in this stage, he knows the name of Krishna, the place of Krishna's pastimes and activities, his qualities and characteristics, and in more advanced stage he may associate with him personally in Krishna's own abode. When we become very advanced in spiritual life, we develop our spiritual form and we can associate with Krishna in the spiritual sky with a personal relationship that is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. This is the perfection of the spiritual process of development. One may go through these different stages: Brahman, impersonal stage; Paramatma, realization of the Lord in the heart; and Bhagawan, the personal form of the Supreme God, Krishna. But when he comes to that realization of Bhagawan, he's got no further realization to make. Then he may act in his natural relationship with the Supreme Lord in the spiritual realm. So this Krishna consciousness movement is meant to bring the living entity from the lowest point of ignorance, because factually we are all in great ignorance. We take our birth in this world completely convinced that we are this body. Just like these small children, they are totally convinced, I am my body. When they walk in the room, they say, here we are, us, the body. And everybody goes, oh, how nice, very good. And the children, they're very happy that you like them. We pat them on the head, squeeze them on the cheek. Yeah? So then they think, oh, how nice it is to be this body. And they like our bodies. Very good. In this way, we develop the bodily conception of life from our very birth. We become convinced that we are this body. We are very much desirous of enjoying the body. So we are born into ignorance. We remain in ignorance. And often we die in ignorance, unless and until we take up this process of Krishna consciousness. Unless we come to the point of realization of what we actually are. We are not this body. But although we are not, the material nature is giving us so much trouble on the basis of the fact that we think we are our bodies. Therefore, old age comes, disease comes, death comes. I don't want these things to come. I don't want to grow old. I don't want to die. I want to live nicely, happily, youthfully, with great success in all my endeavors, for as long as I can. Unfortunately, the material nature has some other idea. The material nature's idea is, you shall grow old. And maybe you don't grow old, because you die young. In any case, you shall get sick, and at the end, death will take everyone away. No one can avoid this. because my body is strictly controlled by the higher energy. This higher energy is known as the three modes of material nature. It is strictly controlling the living entity, keeping him fixed in this material existence. And he must suffer the threefold miseries again and again. What are those miseries? They are called the adhyatmika, adidaivika, and adibhautika klesha. Miseries which come from our own body and mind. Miseries which come from others giving us trouble. And miseries which come from natural elements like the demigods or nature. These miseries are forced upon us. After all, everybody is experiencing trouble with the body almost all the time. Factually, if you very carefully examine your bodies, you will find that almost all the time you're in trouble. Yeah. Just like now we're all sitting. Yeah. So there's nobody here who's perfectly comfortable in his sitting position. That's why we're all moving around this way and that way. It's pain. Yeah. Even if you're sitting in a nice chair, there's still some painful condition where the bottom part hits on the chair. Yeah. Or the back is hitting there. Generally, when we're perfectly comfortable in a nice chair, we fall asleep. Because always there's some pain somewhere in the body. Even though it's not so bad, but still it's there. What to speak of continuously having to blink your eyes, continuously swallowing, continuously moving here or there, especially getting rid of these flies and these bees and all these other fellows. We have a whole farm here. So, we find that this material world has many problems, and the body is always feeling uncomfortable. If the body's not feeling uncomfortable, that's generally because we are experiencing some kind of sense enjoyment which carries away the mind. Like, for instance, why is it we don't complain too much about the body while we're eating? Because while we're eating, the tongue is experiencing great satisfaction. So we forget all about all the problems of the body. Even though we may be sitting in an uncomfortable position sometimes, still, if we're eating and it's good food, forget about everything. So this is what we call pleasure. It's something which happens, which is a better experience than the pain we're feeling in some other part of our body. Now, you've never heard that definition before. But next time, or any time, you just examine how the body feels at every moment in time. After a short while, you realize it's no fun. And when there's some sense gratification, you examine how the rest of your body may also be experiencing painful condition, but you've forgotten all about it because you're enjoying the sense gratification so much. So therefore, one can conclude mainly we have suffering conditions, but sometimes we forget about it. Unfortunately, that agency which helps us forget is our mind. And unfortunately, sometimes the mind is the source of more trouble than the body. Sometimes we experience insanity, deep depression, schizophrenia of various kinds, paranoia. We suffer like this in the mind. Although there may be nothing there, we're afraid. What was that noise? So, mind may give trouble, body may give trouble. Adhyatmika. This means that which we consider the self gives us plenty of trouble. Then there's adibhautika. Other living entities give us trouble. For instance, these flies, they are expert trouble givers. Flies are just perfect at giving plenty of trouble. No problem. They know exactly where your nose is, no matter where you are. They know exactly how to land right on the worst spot. Let's say if you want to take a nap outside, you cover yourself completely. You just leave a little hole right here. There's a fly will go. Because he knows perfectly well how to give you trouble. Of course, he doesn't think he's giving you trouble. He just knows, here's some warm spot with a nice odor. Maybe it's something good to eat. So he goes and lands on your nose. But that's not very nice for you. So he's giving you trouble. He doesn't even know it, but that's the way it is. People give each other trouble. And maybe sometimes they know it, and maybe sometimes they do. And we find that the adidaivika misery is there, the third misery, where nature may give us trouble. For instance, too much sun makes trouble. Too little sun makes trouble. Too much rain makes trouble. Too little rain makes trouble. Too much snow, too little snow, too much cold, too little cold, etc., etc. Earthquakes, volcanoes, floods. All these things are natural catastrophes, and they give us plenty of trouble. So, there seems to be enough agencies to give us trouble in this world. And when one analyzes it, he will see that this place is a place of suffering. And Krishna himself says that in Bhagavad Gita. He uses two words that describe the troublesome condition of the world. He says, Dukhalayam and Ashashvatam. Dukhalayam means that this world is a place of suffering. Dukkha. There's sukha and dukkha. Sukha refers to happiness. Dukkha, distress. In this world, there's not that much happiness. And there's plenty of distress. Therefore, this world is called Dukhalayam, the place of suffering. And Ashashvatam means temporary. Whatever situation there is, it is temporary. It does not last. Everything, this body, it is temporary. Let us today say you are in a suffering condition. Don't worry, it will change, and enjoyment will come again. In fact, one may not even know how that enjoyment is coming again. There is a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam which explains that also. Sukham ainjyakam daicha deha yogena dehinam sarvatra labhyate daivad itadukam ayatnataha. Now, in this verse, it's a very interesting verse, spoken by Prahlad Maharaj long time ago. So, Prahlad Maharaj said, Sukham ainjyakam daicha deha yogena dehina. We are presently captured in a material body. And that happiness we feel in this body comes automatically. Sarvatra labhyate daivad. We have attained this happiness due to the influence of the modes of material nature. We have attained this happiness due to the action of our karma within that arrangement of the modes of nature. If it is your karma to enjoy, enjoyment will come to you even if perhaps you didn't expect it. It comes automatically because by our karma it is now time to enjoy. Similarly, nobody's looking for suffering. If I asked everybody here, you want a happiness pill? Everyone will say, oh yes. If I say, you want a distress pill? Very good pill. Makes you feel just rotten. You really like it. I don't think anybody's going to take it, right? Of course not. Who wants to suffer? But although I don't want to suffer, for sure, I have to suffer anyway. So just as suffering comes automatically, you can't do anything about it. Similarly, happiness will also come. But we generally don't think like that. We think happiness comes out of my own first-class endeavor, because I have so expertly organized the material nature. Therefore, I am now enjoying this and this. But we should understand that this happiness that comes is factually coming because it is our karma to get that satisfaction. Just as the unhappiness comes, even though we haven't made any first-class arrangements to suffer. We don't take the credit for our suffering, do we? Or why do we take the credit for our enjoying? This is called Maya. When the living entity doesn't understand that his happiness are fixed. Sometimes people ask, they say, well, if that is so, that my happiness and my distress are fixed due to my previous actions, then what freedom have I? I must have no freedom. But no. I have simultaneously freedom and no freedom. In one sense, I have no freedom, because all of my previous actions have created karma which are causing me to presently suffer or enjoy. So no freedom. Fixed. Predestination, it's called. But on the other hand, right now, although I may be suffering, for instance, I'm sitting here and it may be not so comfortable. Maybe my leg here is feeling pain, therefore I have to move it like this. That was an excuse. So I may be feeling simultaneously now some suffering condition. However, although I am presently feeling some happiness or distress, I can do something, almost anything I'd like, within reason, of course, and create a new situation of happiness or distress which will come to me in the future. Just like right now I could take this microphone and boom! Hit him on the head. I won't do that, don't worry. So, I could do that. Why not? Anybody can go crazy at any moment, do something completely stupid. No problem. Just pick it up and BAM! I can do that. Now, although I'm presently suffering with the leg, now I'm not suffering. But anyway, let's say I was. Then, although that was fixed, there's a freedom there for me to still do something while I'm suffering or enjoying my previous activities. Simultaneously, there's a predestination and a free will. I can do something if I want, and I can also not do it if I want. So I'm responsible for those actions which I do out of my free will. I am responsible for that which I do, and this creates a condition of suffering or enjoying in the future. How far in the future? I can't say. Maybe in 10 minutes I'll get the reaction. Maybe in 10 years, and maybe in 10 lifetimes. We cannot say. It is not that it is up to us when that reaction will come. Rather, we simply accumulate reactions. And these reactions, when taken all together, create a certain type of consciousness within our mind and our own particular awareness, which at the time of death sends me to a new body just according to my previous actions. So, I am actually the one who's responsible for my happiness and distress. Karmana daivanetrena jantur deho papotaye. Not only that, but I'm responsible for the body I'm in. After all, who here would think that his body is perfect? Anybody here thinks he's got a perfect body? If anybody honestly asked us, of course we don't do this in public, right? But if privately somebody were to come up and say, yeah, what do you think of your body, Just tell me the truth. And someone said, well, this nose is crooked and the teeth are not so straight, and actually I would have had blonde hair. If it was up to me, I would have made some blonde hair. And more muscles for sure. Not enough muscles here, just skinny, useless. And perhaps I would have taken birth in another place, and definitely in a richer family. And I would have given myself some skills and abilities, very great skills and abilities, so I could have become very famous and expert. So I would have given myself all different kinds of characteristics. But right now, I have no choice. I'm in this body because I have to be in this body in this particular way, because that is what I have earned. Everybody would have taken a different body. Everybody here. Come on, let's face it. We would have organized our bodies in a much better way. But we had no choice. Nobody asked us, excuse me, sir, what kind of a body would you like to have? There was no question. It was fixed. Now you go there, in that body. Oh, you don't like it. Sorry. Next lifetime, why don't you act in a nicer way? Then maybe you can get a better body, if you want a better body. We who are following this Krishna consciousness movement are not interested in better bodies. In fact, we are interested in getting rid of all bodies. We want to accept the position wherein we are in our pure spiritual body. Yeah. After all, this body gives us so much trouble. And if we can accept this Krishna conscious process, then we can attain our spiritual form. Spiritual form means the form which is our original purified existence. In that form, there's no pains from our own body or mind, or other bodies, or from the nature. In that form, there is pure spiritual existence. And there is eternal knowledge and bliss. Eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. I am eternal. Sat. I do not take birth. Although the body may take birth, I do not take birth. And I do not die, although the body may die. I am full of knowledge. Sometimes people think when they hear, I am full of knowledge, that means, aha, I knew I was God. I'm full of all knowledge. No, don't get carried away. Full of knowledge means, it's like we have this glass here. It is full of water. Yes. It is full of water. There's nothing else in there, I hope. No flies, no bees. Only water. So, that does not mean all the water in the whole creation is in this glass. It means some water is in the glass. As much water as this glass can hold is in this glass. Excuse me 1 second. Another trick commonly used during lectures. When the speaker needs a glass of water, he speaks about the glass of water. Anyway, now the glass is not full of water. But anyway, if it were full of water, we can understand that the living entity like this condition, very good, he is full of knowledge. That means as much knowledge as he can accept, as much as he can contain, that's how much he has. And there's no ignorance there. Only knowledge in his original nature. But the quantity is limited. Qualitatively, he's full of knowledge, but quantity is limited. And he's full of bliss. Again, a cupful. Not that all bliss in the whole creation is there, but a cupful. We are full of bliss, but a cupful of bliss. Why don't you, du kannst gehen und dann, wenn diese Leute brauchen eine Übersetzung, du kannst ihn informieren, wir haben diese. So, we are full of bliss, full of knowledge, and eternal. To our small degree. To our small degree. We have these wonderful qualities. And when we actually realize ourselves, our spiritual nature, to that small degree, we become very satisfied and blissful. That is the nature of spiritual realization. That one comes to the point of realizing his eternal, his knowledgeable and blissful aspects. So this Krishna consciousness movement is meant just to bring one to the point of realizing our nature, our original nature, our position as the eternal servants of Krishna. The eternal servants of Krishna, who are by nature blissfully engaged eternally in their devotional activities, but who have now fallen into the material bodily concept of life, and who have forgotten this original nature. And now we are suffering because of it. So Krishna Consciousness Movement is requesting all of you to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Because by such chanting, one will purify his whole existence and come to the point of his original nature. It is not that difficult. One must simply engage himself in hearing and chanting this mantra, which is the names of the Supreme. It is purifying mantra. It just cleanses away all of the coverings on the heart of the living entity, situating himself in the spiritual realm. And by regular hearing and chanting, regular reading of Bhagavad Gita and other books, please take home as many books as you can, then one will gradually come to the platform of understanding the absolute truth. One can understand Krishna, even in this lifetime. One can elevate himself to the spiritual platform, even in this lifetime, if he's a little bit sincere to understand the Supreme, and actually make a little endeavor to add Krishna to one's life. This will be the best use of this valuable human form of life. There are so many forms of life. This human form is rare. Let us make the best use of this human form and go back home, back to Godhead in this very lifetime.